Okay, well, I'm going to tell you guys another story about my time working as an not as an auctioneer, but working for the auctioneer. This is kind of a sad one. Um, Basically, what had happened was there's a village up above the town of Perth, north of Perth. The village is called Lanark, Lanark, and it's just a village. And anyway, my boss got the job of clearing out and selling a house in Lanark. I'm not going to give away any details as far as where exactly in Lanark the house was, and I'm not going to say anybody's name or anything like that. But suffice it to say, it was a house in Lanark anyway. Well, we went up there, and when we went to go into the house, we had trouble getting the front door open. And the reason for that was there was garbage piled up, literally piled up to our knees in that house. We had to use a snow shovel and actually shovel a path through the garbage. We had to shovel paths through the garbage. There were dead mice, there was dead rats, there were also living rodents, you know. It was really bad. There was mold growing on everything. It was a horrendous thing anyway. It was really bad. And anyway, myself and a woman that my boss had hired to help too, between the two of us, we worked for a week and we got that house cleaned out. I loaded up the cube van with bags of garbage. I don't know how many loads of garbage we took to the dump, but it was a lot. Anyway, loading up the cube van, bags of garbage. Threw away a lot of the stuff in the house because it was contaminated. We were able to salvage a few things that were sold by auction. The house was the house was put up for auction, but it didn't sell. I don't think it did anyway. From what I recall, the house didn't sell at auction. But anyway, it was really bad. It was so bad, even, I'll tell you, in the china cabinet, there were drinking glasses that were upside down, gold rimmed drinking glasses. That ring of gold around the top of the glass. Well, those things were turned upside down in the china cabinet, and they were actually stuck to the shelf because people had drank sticky liquids out of them. They've been having I'll tell you the story in a minute, but basically they were drinking mixed drinks out of them is what they were doing, alcohol and pop. And when they were finished, they just put the glass back in there, and it was stuck. But here's the sad part of the story. What had happened was it was an elderly woman's house and her grandchildren. This was her own grandchildren that did this. Now, like I say, I don't know what kind of grandma she was. Maybe she was a bitch on wheels. I don't know. I still don't think she deserved this, though. Even if she was, I mean, if she's that bad, just stay the heck away from her. That's all. If she's a toxic grandma, just disown her, stay away from her, leave her to die in her house by herself. But that's not what the grandkids did. And like I say, I don't know if she was a toxic grandma or not. It may just be that the grandkids were toxic. I mean, I really don't know. But what they did is they basically did a home invasion. They came into the house with their friends. These were young adults. These were people in their 20s. And they took the house over. And they spent, I don't know how long, but a good long time partying in there. It went on for quite a while. They locked the grandmother in her room. I actually saw the room that she was locked in. I was in the room that she was locked in. I saw the hasp for the padlock. and so on, because they literally padlocked her door shut. And if she needed to come out to use the toilet, then I guess she'd bang on the door or yell or whatever, and one of them would come and open the door and let her out and take her to the bathroom, and then put her back in her room and lock her up again. They bring her meals into her room to her and stuff. And this went on for quite a while. That woman was held captive in her own house while her grandchildren and their friends destroyed the place. And what happened is eventually the old woman took a bad turn, health-wise. Maybe it would have happened anyway, or maybe it was the stress of the situation that brought it on. I don't know. I mean, she was an elderly woman, so who knows? But either way, her last days were made really miserable by her grandchildren and her grandchildren's friends. And they just wrecked the house anyway. They just trashed the house, you know. And the garbage was literally up to our knees. Like when I say we used a snow shovel to make paths for the garbage, so we could function in there. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being hyperbolic. That is literally what we did. And we had trouble getting the door open because there was so much garbage in there. It was piled up to our knees, like I say, so the door wouldn't open. We had to push the garbage with the door, basically, to be able to you know. Anyway, it was bad. Yeah, it was really bad. Rotten food, takeout containers, chip bags, alcohol containers, you know, pop bottles, filth, like dirty, dirty filth, you know. Just every kind of thing you can think of. Anything nasty and corrupt and awful was in this garbage that was all through the house. The water had also been turned off, but I brought. Well, you saw, you know, the tank of water I have by my sink in my camper. Well, I had those back then. They predate my homeless situation by quite a few years, and I had two of them, and I filled them up with water. One of them is the one that you see in my videos in my camper, but I actually do have two of them. One of them's leaking right now, so that's why I'm not using it. But I filled up both of those things with hot water in the morning, and I brought them down to the job with me so that we'd have water to be able to clean that house. And that's what I did. Opened up all the windows. I found a box fan, put a box fan up in one of the windows, pointing outwards to suck the stink out of the house because the smell in there was just horrible. Anyway, there wasn't a whole lot could be salvaged because practically everything was contaminated. Most of the furniture had to be thrown away. All the dishes had to be thrown away, pots and pans and things, it all had to be thrown away because it was all contaminated with mold. Dirty dishes and dirty pots and pans left. Threw away bag after bag of dirty, stinking, rotten garbage with the corpses of rats mixed into it and everything else. It was something else. Anyway, the old lady, she took a bad turn health-wise, and the grandkids got scared, and they called an ambulance. And, of course, when the ambulance crew came and saw the state of the place, it got reported, because it was a case of elder abuse, that was obvious. And they saw that she had been locked in her room and all that. That got reported. And so she ended up in the hospital. The kids got put out of the house. I think the kids were even criminally charged. At least some of them were that were involved in it. And the old lady was taken to the hospital where she passed away. She never came out of the hospital. And we got the job of selling her house. So, yeah. And that was a sad one. That was a really sad one, you know. And we had a few of those. We really did. We had a few of those, jobs like that. I think that was about the most heinous one, and also the dirtiest house we ever dealt with. We dealt with other dirty houses, but I think that was probably by far the worst. And then, of course, the backstory behind it was also the worst. And this was done by her grandchildren. Her own family did this to her. Now, like I say, I don't know what kind of person she was. Just because she was old and a grandma does not mean she was a nice person. There are some awful people, who had just happened to be old. But even if she wasn't a nice person, and I'm not saying she wasn't a nice person either, I know nothing about what kind of person she was. I only know the story of what happened to her at the end of her life. But whether she was a nice person or not, she didn't deserve that. What happened there was wrong. And like I say, if she hadn't been a good grandma or whatever, if she wasn't a good person, well, they should have just disowned her and left her to be miserable by herself. That's all. But there were drugs involved and everything. It was sad, I mean, the grandkids were on drugs, and like I say, it was actually kind of a dangerous job because you didn't know what you were getting into with that pile of garbage. There were things in that garbage that could make you sick, and so on. And it was bad anyway. But that's just one story that we had to deal with, that I dealt with anyway. It was mostly me, really. My boss popped in occasionally, but he didn't hang around. It was mostly me that did the job. And there was a lady there helping me too, that my boss had hired to help me. But yeah, that's the story anyway. Yeah, you just never know, eh? I wonder about the neighbors around there, if they suspected anything. They might have had no idea. I don't know exactly how long it went on for, but it went on for a fairly long time. Like, it wasn't just a weekend or whatever. It was an extended period of time. I do know that. I just don't know. When I say extended period of time, I don't know if I'm talking 2 weeks, 2 months, a year. I don't know. 6 months, a year. I don't know. But it went on for long enough that they trashed that house. They basically trashed the house and effectively killed their grandma. Basically, just like I say, the bad turn she took might have happened anyway. But I do have a suspicion that there was stress, that it was stress induced, along with her advanced years and so on. Anyway, when I saw the door with the padlock on, with the hasp, the padlock wasn't on it anymore, but the hasp for the padlock. That was quite a thing. And I remember saying to the lady I was working with there, because I knew the backstory, and I remember saying to her, like, let's look at this. Just look what happened here. Anyway, that's it. Another story. All right. I'm sitting in downtown Smiths Falls uploading videos again because I'm trying to save my data. All right, bye for now.